Ladies and gentlemen, dear doctors, my name is Grace Estefan, and I'm here to welcome you all to our quality-focused session entitled The Roadmap for Establishing Laboratory Auto-Verification Programs Powered by Omnia Health. This session touches on the importance that quality plays in streamlining all processes and guaranteeing optimal test results, and how the auto-verification programs help ensure faster turnaround time and accurate diagnostic testing outcomes. During the webinar, please make sure to add your questions to the Q&A box and fill in a short evaluation poll at the end of the session. Let us welcome our esteemed speaker, namely Professor Rania Al-Sharkawi. Dr. Rania is a professor of clinical pathology, Medical Research Institute, Alexandria University, and a consultant in clinical pathology and quality in medical laboratories. She is the head of the Egyptian National Committee for Accreditation Standard Development in the General Healthcare Authority for Quality and Accreditation. The floor is yours, Professor Rania.
Thank you so much. First, I'd like to thank Beckman Coulter for this very good quality webinar, and I'll thank Informa for the very good organization, and I'd like to thank the Medical Syndicate in Egypt for the support in giving the Egyptian attendees a certificate of attendance, and I wish you all a very fruitful webinar. Actually, I selected this topic because I think we're all in the laboratories had certain fear from establishing the auto verification program in the lab. And I hope by this webinar, we will be able to break this fear and start even with simple or 1 or 2 tests in the lab. Before I start, I'd like to highlight the new trends in healthcare. The healthcare is shifting to a patient-centered model, and also is shifting to a data-based evidence. This is a major shift that is enforced by so many accreditation standards. You will be surprised that by 2030, the patient is going to be evaluated with a lot of numbers. They are estimating that for a single patient will be diagnosed for about 10,000 numbers. These numbers are ranging from the age, the date of birth, the results of a lab, the results of a body mass index, the results of clinical data. The one patient in a single sitting might reach to around 10,000 number to diagnose. So the big data is terminology that we're all hearing nowadays, but we must understand properly what is a big data, because we are dealing with a big data every day in our university hospital labs, in our Ministry of Health labs, but actually we don't know how to manage these data. The big data in healthcare refers to a complex data that are too difficult to analyze or manage using the normal softwares that we are using. So if you think properly, you have the data on the laboratory information system, and you have a data on the hospital information system. If they are integrated and the medical record for the patient is integrated with the data on the LIS, you will have a huge data that you need to manage to analyze the patient case. As I've mentioned, these data coming from the demographic, the clinical, the diagnostic, even the health record. Now the medical record, we're moving to a health record, the patient care data, and the genomic data. The genomic data is the coming era that we will be all diagnosed using our genomic data or our genomic profile. The FDA defined that digital health is a mixture of so many applications, starting from mobile health, telemedicine, personalized medicine, electronic health record, and healthcare information technology. All these are considered digital health as defined by the FDA. What's artificial intelligence? We'll keep listening that the future of labs is the artificial intelligence, but we need to know how artificial intelligence is going to be applied on our labs, because saying artificial intelligence as a definition or as a word is very hard to link it to our applications on the lab. The artificial intelligence, it refers to a complex of software systems that enable computers to augment, even imitate the human intelligence for decision making. We will be scared that is it going to replace the human? No, it's not going to replace the human. And our auto verification lesson today is the best example of this. When I apply the auto verification, am I going to get rid of the doctors and depend only on the artificial intelligence and softwares? Of course, but I will reserve the skills and the time of the doctors for a difficult case that needs the human competences and skills to be solved. So the artificial intelligence is a complex software system that's given some data and algorithms set by the human and set by the guidelines to imitate the human intelligence for decision making. As I've mentioned, it can analyze the huge number of data that helps the human beings for faster decision making. Also, we are hearing the word machine learning. Machine learning is a subfield of artificial intelligence that uses algorithms to praise and learn data by constructing statistical prediction model from the data sets and the new data instance, and this will help us to apply the new learning for prediction and recommendations. So the machine learning is some set of algorithms and statistical prediction models that help the equipment or the information system to predict and makes recommendations. I will give you some examples shortly. Let me tell you that we're used in the lab to be the hidden partner. We are in the back of the clinician to help him in the diagnosis. And our main role is to be the hidden champion in the overall process. And we're rarely seen by the patient. I'm happy to tell you that this is an old concept that should be not present anymore for the medical lab. So what is our new role in the medical lab? As we are shifting from a diseased focus to patient focus, as I have mentioned, we have to move the lab from the hidden champion behind the clinician to a diagnostics health triangle. And this is a new terminology that we all should adapt and put in our mind while we're tailoring our practice. We have to be the diagnostic health triangle, the patient, the physician, and the lab. We are the three diagnostic triangles for the patient. Let me give you another surprise that where healthcare is moving. You will be surprised that the lab medicine started in the clinician office. They started with the doctor's room is ordering the lab test and performing some sort of tests in the clinic. And later we all moved to the automation era and centralization and for better quality performance. Now, in the era of new technology and artificial intelligence, we're moving again to the point of care testing and the bedside diagnostic era, which is also the coming future. The point of care systems and its integration and decision making is also an application of machine learning and application of artificial intelligence. Let me tell you that the future is for the point of care testing. As I've mentioned, that the future of medical labs is in artificial intelligence applications and machine learning applications and point of care testing controlled by the lab. We will make it in another webinar. That point of care testing is very important, how to control it by the lab. Let me tell you a small example before we move to our auto verification roadmap. How to apply artificial intelligence in the lab, how it's going to help you. For example, if you give the machine the space of the phlebotomy area or the waiting area before the phlebotomy and the competency of the phlebotomy staff, he takes the sample within 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, and the expected number of patients that you're expecting a day. So by doing some certain artificial intelligence work, the software can expect the waiting time for the patient, can tell you the area that you need for your patients, can help you to make many decisions in the lab that you spend so many time using your brain and mind. So this will help you in decision making. Let me move to the auto verification. Auto verification is a process by which patient results are generated from interconnected instrument and are subsequently sent to the LIS, where they are compared to another a set of acceptance criteria to be automatically released without the intervention of the lab doctor. Again, the auto verification is the process of automatically verifying test results based on predetermined criteria that we will learn today. What are these predetermined criteria? And using the machine learning method to release this test result. Let me surprise you that the first algorithm that helped the human being to assess the in-test verification was published 50 years ago. And now after 50 years, we still didn't implement this simple auto verification because we have a lot of fears inside us. I hope we can break it today. It was established 50 years ago by Lindbergh on the identification of critical results. Most of us are asking ourselves why we're not applying the auto verification. We will say that we don't have the technical competency. I do agree. So we're learning to have the competency. We have no persons or no people committed to the project. So we must have, and today I will tell you the formulation of the project. The lab information system might not be capable of performing complex rules and result review. I can tell you that most of the LISs now are capable of incorporating or performing complex rule and result review. So the problem is the fear that we have no competency to apply the auto verification. This is the main fear from applying the auto verification. Do we need auto verification? Let's think in a minute. Do we really need auto verification? We have plenty of doctors. They are doing a great job, and they are sitting on the microscope, counting the blood films, and we're doing great. How about that instead of having 10 doctors verifying the results of or counting the blood films, we can use their time properly for diagnosing abnormal results, for communicating with the patient and explaining the results, for communicating with the doctors for advisory services. So when are you going to think that you need an auto verification program? When you have a huge workload, and we all have a huge workload in our labs, especially in the universities or the Ministry of Health or even the private sectors. Number two, you need to properly utilize the doctor's time, because as you all know, the doctors are very costly, especially the experienced doctors. So instead of using 10 doctors as I mentioned, to count the normal blood film, I can use their time for better utilization and make their time focusing on abnormal and diagnostic health triangle: the patient, the lab, the doctor. This is what they should use their time for. Let's start the roadmap. First, we will formulate the team. Second is to determine the test included. Which test? Shall I go for the CBC? Shall I go for the chemistry? Shall I go for the immunoassay? Shall I go for the all tests in the lab suddenly? Or what should I do? So how to select the appropriate tests to introduce is very important. How to set the analytical criteria or the auto verification criteria. How to develop the master algorithm format. And how to determine the analyzer and reagent specific algorithm format. Then apply, pilot, generalize with measurements of project success factors. There is another model that's explained by the CAP, and it's a very nice model. But I think for the startup labs, I do recommend the model that I just explained with the 6 steps. I will explain the 6 steps in details, don't worry. But the SMART tests is an algorithm or a model that explained by the CAP, and I found it very nice. It's very long. You determine the scope, you determine the master algorithm template, analyzer-specific algorithm, reagent-specific algorithm, tool selection and implementation, translation of algorithm into tools. As you can see, each one of these steps is part of the SMART test. SMART test is an abbreviation of the all steps. Exceptions review process, validation or substantiation, and train and scale. These are the abbreviation of SMART test. Let me first go through the first step, which is formulation of the team. As you all do, getting the lab director and putting him in all projects. This is not properly. This is not a proper decision, because the lab director is so overwhelmed with a lot of tasks and deliverables that has to be achieved. So I'm recommending, and this is not me, of course, this is the guideline recommendation, that the lab director should be part of the team. He shouldn't be the main responsible of the program or the project. We have to assign a project manager for this project. And we have to get a senior doctor in the department specialty. In the department specialty, if I'm going to start the project with CBC, so I'll get the doctor specialized in hematology or hematology doctor. Should have a senior technologist. Also, the fifth one is the problem, the methodologist. The methodologist is the person who sets and puts the rules for auto verification. We call it also the auto verification specialist. But we don't set an auto verification specialist for each auto verification test or a project in the lab. It's better to have an auto verification specialist for the whole lab. And we call it a methodologist. He's the one who sets the methodology and the rules and makes sure that you are following the roadmap that we're mentioning today. The second step is, I just asked you from where to start, which test to put on, which test to start with. First, you have to start with high volume tests, the tests with high volume, because when you have a high volume of tests, a lot of errors might occur. A lot of doctors needs to verify the results. You need to have a clinical correlation team. You have to have a delta check rules. So when you have a huge volume of a test, this test is a right decision for the auto verification selection. You have to select the department with most skills, the department that has the skills and the capability and the will to share in such projects. The doctor skills that knows how to do the auto verification, because the auto verification needs a lot of work, as you will see, a lot of readings, a lot of algorithm to be set. Tests with stable analytical performance. What does this mean? This means that you shouldn't select the tests that has problems in the analytical performance, that has a lot of outliers, a lot of flags, a lot of outside the analytical measurement range, a lot of reagent variation that might affect the performance. You have to select the test high volume with stable analytical performance and included in the department that has so many skills or good skills for the doctors. What are the auto verification criteria or the analytical performance criteria that accordingly I will set which test that I will select? Here we have 7 criteria that will mention rapidly. First criteria is internal QC and calibration. Internal QC and calibration, as you all know, that internal QC should be done or should be a decision before the sample is introduced. Make sure that you understand this properly. QC result should be verified before you enter the patient sample. So it should be a judging rule or judging criteria before you put the sample or before you put the sample and the auto verification starts at all. So if there is no QC results within 24 hours, or if the QC result is violated, so this sample shouldn't go to the auto verification level at all. It will stop. These samples or these results are not legible for auto verification. So this is one of the main criteria. What else? The calibration period. Of course, there is a reagent calibration period and the machine calibration. So we have to separate, to differentiate between both. the calibration period and last calibration dates are very important. If calibration is due, so these results shouldn't be enter the auto verification process. This is a bottleneck that shouldn't allow these tests to go to the auto verification phase. The instrument flag. The instrument flag means that there is any error, there is a high result, there is an abnormal result. The numerical result of the test is not following the numerical setup for this test. If there is instrument flag or error code by any mean, this auto verification should stop immediately and we have to go to the manual verification. As you all know that moving average is now a method used additional to the QC method to help provide the high quality of results. So as you all know that the moving average, we collect 20 samples, 20 patient results and analyze and put 2 standard deviation above and 2 standard deviation below. And if the result is outside 2 standard deviation, so we should stop the auto verification. The result should not go to the auto verification step and we should go to manual verification. Analytical measurement range. Sorry. Analytical measurement range is another criteria that's very important. What is the analytical measurement range? It is the range in which I am verifying or I am reporting my patient results, and after which or above which I should do dilution of the patient sample, and if any result is outside the analytical measurement range, so the auto verification should be stopped and the manual verification should start. Critical values. Critical values is very important. When you feed the computer with the critical values, as you all know, that it produces some sort of flag that this is a critical value or critical results. And here also, this is one of the regulating criteria for auto verification, and it should stop, and the auto verification should be done manually. The serum indices. What does serum indices mean? Most of the instruments now, and most of them are calculating something called the Hill index, which is the hemolysis, the actress, and the lipemia. And if the analyte, like the potassium, like the aspartate aminotransferases, lactate dehydrogenases, with a sample above the accepted Hill index for the analyte, so the auto verification should stop and manual verification should start. I hope you're gathering now that the auto verification team should determine for each analyte what are the analytical measurement range, what are the critical values, what are the Hill index accepted for this test, for the potassium, for the aspartate aminotransferase, for the lactate dehydrogenase, specific for the test. This means that we're going to do auto verification rules and algorithm for each analyte. Yes, I will show you. Delta check. Delta check also is done for each analyte. It's done to evaluate the percentage of change or rate difference or rate percentage difference of the patient case. I will have the patient result now, and I have to see his previous result, and I have to see the acceptable delta percentage change or difference, rate difference. Is it acceptable or not acceptable? If it is not acceptable, so the auto verification will stop and we have to go for manual auto verification. The result limit check is another rule, which means that we take three different limits were used to determine the threshold or the reference range plus total allowable error. And if your result is within this limit check, you will accept the result for auto verification. If it is not, you have to stop and go for manual verification. Lastly, the consistency check. The consistency is check, which means that you have to correlate the result of, for example, the cholesterol with HDL, with LDL, with the triglycerides. You have to correlate the results of the TSH with the free T3, with the free T4 to make the or release the result or make a full clinical decision about the patient. So the consistency check is when you correlate more than one test to make sure that the released test result is appropriate and correct for diagnosis of the patient. The cross check or the consistency check is the last step in the master algorithm, as I will show you. And let's come now to the developing our master algorithm. Developing the master algorithm is the methodology algorithm, is the main algorithm that have to be set for the auto verification rule in the lab. First, and this is a very simple thing, the symbolic standardization. What is a symbolic standardization? Symbolic standardization means that when you use a solid box, this means a process. When you use a double oval symbol, this means that this is the start or the end. When you use the diamond symbols, this is a decision making. And these are general rules for the flow charts, for the quality flow charts. But this has to be set in the policy of putting the auto verification, so that everyone, when seeing the diamond shape, he should know that this is a decision making rule. Here we go. This is the master algorithm template. This is very, very important. This is the start. This is what we should do for all the auto verification project in the lab. This is our start. We'll start with, as I mentioned, the quality control check. The quality control check, as you can see here, they can see my carousel, right? The quality control check, if it's okay or pass, we will we will move to the next step. If there is an instrument error flag, we will stop the auto verification. If there is no instrument flag, we will move to the evaluate the moving average control. The moving average control, is it acceptable or not acceptable? If not acceptable, we will stop the auto verification. If it is acceptable, we will check if the result is in a numeric value, it's an around numeric value. If it is in a numeric value and accepted, we will move to the next step. What is the next step? The result is a repeat, or it is a primary, it's the first result, or it is a repeat. If it is a repeat, you have to go to the original result and compare them and do the verification manually. If it is not a repeat, we have to go to the step after, which is the analytical measurement range. Is the result inside the analytical measurement range? Yes. If the result is outside the analytical measurement range, so you have to stop the auto verification and go for manual verification. If the result is within the analytical measurement range, let's check the next step. Is it a critical result? If it is not a critical result, so let's move to the next step. Is there any interference indices, the hemolysis, the ectras, and the lipemia? If no interference, we should go to the next step. Does it have any previous result? We will check for the result limit check and the delta check as well in parallel, as you can see. If there is a previous result for the patient and the result limit check and the delta check showing no acceptable or no variation and all is acceptable, we will go to the consistency check. And as I told you, the consistency check is the last step. The last step in the control process, which means that I am gathering all the related tests, the bundle tests, the tests that has clinical decision in correlation with each other, and I will correlate them clinically if they are correlated. So auto verification will be done for this test. This is called a master algorithm template. This is your start. This is the start for the auto verification project. This is the same algorithm, the master algorithm. As you can see here, it's using the standardized symbols that he will start with. That the result is transmitted to the instrument. As you can see, the result is transmitted to the instrument. Is the result is rerun? And this is very important. Why? Because if the result is rerun, you have to go to the original result and check. If it is there is an original, you have to go to the previous result or the original result and do manual verification. If it is not a rerun, you will go to the next step. It's in acceptable format, acceptable units, acceptable decimals, acceptable standardized format. If it's okay, we will go to the next step. Is there is an instrument flag, and we will go to the pathway that I just explained for the master algorithm format. Master is the main, the startup. What is the fourth step? The fourth step is the analyzer specific algorithm. Oh my God. Analyzer specific algorithm. This means that if I have one test done on two analyzers, so I have to make an auto verification algorithm for both analyzers. I'm sorry to tell you that, yes, you have to. Why should I? Why should I do that? Because the analyzer's behavior affects the decision making badly. How it may affect? Some analytes have no specific rerun behavior. The error flag on what? On the high sample, on the low sample, on the out of calibration sample. What are the error flag? Inability to produce or to do the Hell index. Some analyzers does not report the Hell index. So at this, when you're using this analyzer, you have to verify the interference step manually to be able to complete the journey of auto verification. So if you have, for each analyzer, you have to have an analyzer specific algorithm. Some analyzers does not have onboard rerun capability. Without the onboard rerun capability, we might do the manual auto verification for the test. We mentioned the analyzer specific algorithm. We have to do also a reagent specific algorithm. As you can see, we started with the master algorithm for auto verification. Then we move to the analyzer specific algorithm. Some analyzers might have more than one reagent, more than reagent. You have to have a reagent specific analyzer. And the coding system that you will use to specify the test for reagent, for analyzer, for main procedure is very important. This is called a coding system. The reagent specific analyzer or a test specific analyzer, it has to be it's important. Why we should do it? Because it's unique for each reagent. Some reagents have specific performance and have specific deviation that might affect the analytical performance of the test. So then you have to have, if two reagents for certain tests, you have to have one for each reagent. Let's review together because we might be running out of time. I will explain the TSH algorithm, which is a model of reagent specific and analyzer specific. As you can see, first, the result is transmitted from the instrument. This is number one. Is there an R? As you can see, step number two is an R. What does R mean? Is it a rerun? If it is a rerun, so I have to stop to the last result. The last result does not mean the previous result from previous setting. The original result before the rerun. If it is not a rerun, let's go to see, is it numerically correct? What does numerically correct? It's reported in the units that should be reported on. As you can see here for TSH, 150 and less than 0.001. This is the correct numeric for the TSH. If it is in the correct numeric, we will go to the next rule. Are there any present high or low flag near to this result? If there is no high or low flag and it is in the right, correct numeric formatting, so we will go to the next step. What is the next step? The next step is round result to 3 decimal places. If the result is not to the round 3 decimals, I have to round it or make the rule round to the 3 decimal places. If it is rounded to the 3 decimal space, so we will go to the next step. What is the next step? If the result more than 47.999, what is this? This is the analytical measurement range. The 47.999 and 0.005, this is the analytical measurement range for TSH on this analyzer using specific reagent. So if the result is within the 47.999 and 0.005 inside the analytical measurement range, so the test is accepted to move to the next step of auto verification, which is is it repeated or should be evaluated? No, I'm sorry. Is there any other test that should be related? Consistency check with other tests. Are there any bundle tests? Yes, free T3, free T4. In this lab rule, he doesn't want to bundle. He doesn't want to correlate the results of the TSH with the results of the T3 or T4. Then it moves to the next step with the sample integrity check. What is the sample integrity check? Hemolysis, ectris, lipemia. If the sample has no problem or any problem as regards its integrity, so the result is auto verified. This is a model of analyzer reagent specific algorithm for TSH. What is auto verification? How it's going to help us during the normal day? Let me show you a model of CBC. And by the way, CBC is one of the best tests to be done because it consumes a lot of time and we have a high workload from CBC. auto verification in a normal day, this is one of the labs which has a huge number of CBC. How did the auto verification help the lab? This lab verified 53.4% of the samples and retained only 5.9 for samples that needs re-evaluation or criteria, and the retained pathological result of 40.7%. So as you can see, the lab saved a lot of time for the pathological films only. And with this saving, or with this auto verification, how is the non-conformity product? The non-conformity percent decreased to 0.0036%. This is a very, very minimal non-conformity product. So out of 20,311 automated CBC results in a month, the percentage of error decreased to 0.0036%, which is a very, very number of error. The last step, we will put all the data that we just tailored together today on the platform of the LIS that has the auto verification module. And we will pilot the results on a small scale of tests. We will compare by another verification method and start in a small scale and then generalize the result to other tests. The project success factors, or the indicators for project success factors, are turnaround time, productivity of the technologists and doctors, and error rate. These are the three main indicators that you have to set the success of the project with. The ISO has no requirements for the accreditation regards to the auto verification. The GAHAR requires a policy and procedure for auto verification for accreditation. The CAP also has some rules for auto verification regarding the policy and the team and the formulation and the acceptable limits. And the CAP has so many rules regarding the auto verification. Because we're running out of time, I'll not be able to highlight them in details. But I told you that the accreditation requirements as regards the CAP, the GAHAR, the ISO for the auto verification. In summary, I should tell you that the future of the medical laboratory lies in the artificial intelligence and in the machine learning. We should change our practice from the clinical laboratory into the diagnostic triangle: the patient, the doctor, and the lab. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is the future of modern lab. Clinical laboratory must move towards a more specialized role. Auto verification is becoming a necessity, and we have to start our project. It's not very hard. I hope after I concluded and I verified the roadmap, we all should start our auto verification project. And I must tell you, and when there is a will, there is a way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Rania, for an interesting presentation. This subject is really of great importance nowadays. We have a few questions from the audience. The first question is, what are the names of the correlated tests?
Okay. The correlated tests, which means that according to the guidelines that we are adapting. For example, if I just mentioned the TSH, the test that I need to put with the TSH to make a full picture of the released result. For example, if I have a TSH, I have to correlate it with the free T3. I have to correlate it with the free T4. So the picture will be completed after correlating the three results. For example, I'll give you another example. in the lipid profile. I cannot release the cholesterol. No, I have to correlate the cholesterol with the HDL, with the LDL, with the triglyceride. The full picture is there if I am correlating the tests that are relating to the analyte or the test result that I am verifying. This is the correlated tests.
The second question, how frequently shall the audit take place to check accuracy of the given algorithm of AV? What are the steps when any incident is found when AV was wrong or faulty?
This is a very interesting question. Of course, the CAP mentioned that the period is 1 year. But if you have any problem as regards an error in the auto verification, that's why I mentioned as in the 6th step that before releasing, you have to verify by another method to make sure that the results verified is verified by another method. And your method of verification, of auto verification, is rigid and producing no error. In the start of the project, I'm recommending that you audit with meeting with the team and weekly and monthly meetings through the period of the first 3 months. And then if the process is stable and everything is going just well and no errors are detected and the system is going, you have to review every 3 months. But let me tell you something. If any of the contributors to the method is changed, you have to change and go to the step. That's why I mentioned when you select the method and when you select the test, you have to select a method, a test with a method performance stable. So if you change the reagent, you have to change the algorithm. If you change the analyzer, you have to change. If you change the analytical measurement range for any verification results, you have to change the algorithm and go for the cycle all over again.
Another question, can you give us an example of a small-scale pilot auto-verification?
Okay, as I mentioned, if a small-scale cycle auto-verification, number one, you will formulate a small team. I'm recommending the head of the unit and technologist and methodologist, and that's it. Then you select a group of tests. For example, if I would recommend a bundle test with the immunoassay or the chemistry analyzer or CBC only. You select a test based on the high volume and stability. This is number 2 for auto verifications. I'm explaining the short auto verification cycle. Then establish the master algorithm, the quality control, the analytical measurement range, the limit check, all the data that I just mentioned. If you establish for this small scale of tests, then you will pilot the results of auto verification by another method. You do manual verification and you do the auto verification and you compare. If it will produce the same results, so your auto verification method is doing well and you can depend on it and release, and you can generalize on bigger scale of analytical of tests.
Another question, do you prefer the AV to be managed by the IVD middleware or by the LIMS?
Oh, this is a very tricky question. Okay, now most of the LIS has an auto verification module. It depends on the specification of the auto verification module. Does it have all the criteria that I just mentioned to be filled in? But if it does not have all the criteria that should be checked, and which is a lot to be filled in and to help us for auto verification, so I recommend a middleware. But if the LIS has all the criteria to put and to be able to produce a good auto verification system, I recommend the LIS.
Professor Rania, the last question, and then there are some requests from the audience. Should the delta check be applied for all tests, or is it enough to apply it for few tests?
the delta check is one of the main rules for auto verification, because the rate change or the percentage change might affect the result release very well. So whenever there is a delta check for the test and it's reported by the literature and by the textbook or by guideline, we have to put it there. That's why I'm telling, when we are selecting or implementing the auto verification project in the lab, go smart. Start smart with the test that is straightforward, with all the criteria I've mentioned there, established, clear. So this is our start.
Okay, thanks a lot, Professor Rania. Some of the attendees requested a copy of your presentation. Of course, we will connect with you. We have their email address. They shared their email address. Other requested to check whether this is recorded. Yes, it is recorded. Omnia Healthcare probably will send you soon an on-demand, registration where you can review the recorded session. For the certificates, we are not planning to have certificates, but maybe Omnia team as well can look at it. I remind you that all Egyptian attendees need to add all their details, allowing them to get 1 CME point from the syndicate. Thank you, Professor Rania. You can close now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So that's it from our end, and looking forward to another session on quality, because I see that you are all interested. So hopefully we can prepare something else in 2023 on quality and make it progressive chapters. Thanks a lot, and bye to all.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.